Sorry, I'm running. Do you mind popping on these lights? Forgot. Okay, good morning. Now that the weather's back, I was in our management meeting this morning, so I think we have a clear sign of spring ahead, these sunny days, and it definitely makes a difference in the phones. We can always tell when based on daily phone calls that we're getting in the office, what the showing activity will be like. And leading indicators is something that you always want to talk to when you're talking to your clients. So leading indicators those are things that you guys know and the media does not know. It's not reported in the newspaper. It's not reported to the general public. But since you're the ones that have their feet on the street, then you want to speak to how, like I always talk about, how the market's changing, and the leading indicators. Showing activity is a big leading indicator. So, on a more global perspective, economic development, what's going on with your local chamber and things that are coming down the pike economically makes an indirect impact. But as far as relative information for someone that's listing their home in the next few weeks, showing activity is a big leading indicator to offers written, and of course to contracts and escrow and closed sales. So, okay, so a few things I want to talk about today is go through your basics that you need to do this month, starting right now, if you haven't already, to ensure that your income goal is with our KD&A template or your template. I was looking at our KD&A, and I also always, when I'm looking at weekly reports of KD&A, I also look at the year-to-date report. And the year-to-date report, our top agents is number 1, Kathy Crow, Wes, number 2, Tammy, number 3, and Barbara and Sarah Jones and Angela Crescini. So those are the agents that have remained in green for most of the year. And we know that agents that are in the green statistically will have an average income of $140,000 a year across the nation. It's $140,000. Now in our office, we're just now measuring this more. And based on what I was looking at this morning, those agents have an average income goal of over $250,000 per agent. So there's a big difference in those agents that year to date have been performing in the green. So this also dictates their closings. This KD&A is to measure behavior, to measure what you're doing on a weekly basis, but it is a very good leading indicator of what your income is going to be and what your closings will be. So I thought that was interesting. So let's talk a little bit about some of these behaviors and some of these things that are important before we go into our KD&A weekly results and our weekly wins. So the number one thing that I can't emphasize enough is lead follow-up. Lead follow-up, go through all of your leads from the last 12 months and contact them this week, because things change, life happens, and there's different things that happen with people. So things you want to ask is, why didn't they move forward? So when you're on that phone call, remove obstacles. You're focused on removing those obstacles and why they did not move forward. And then, are they on an active automated search? Do you have current MLS criteria in the MLS gateway if they're buyers? If they're sellers, do you have them enrolled in a seller search? So that way they're notified of new listings in their area. So that way they know what's going on. If you use Top Producer, Market Snapshot. Do you have your pitch or value proposition refined and easy to present? So that value proposition, of course, is different with every prospective seller and every prospective buyer. And that value proposition is what's valuable to different people is what you need to be speaking to. So everyone, it could be they really like the moving benefits. It could be that they really are value conscious and they're focused on price and commission. It could be that they're concerned about staging and the marketability of their home. So speak to what is value, what they value in a realtor. So you have to ask questions to find out what they value in a realtor before you really have your value proposition refined for that specific buyer or seller. Okay, so let them know what's changed in the market that may allow them to move forward. For example, 1-year tax returns for small business owners is a huge change. That's a huge benefit that now only, instead of 2 years tax returns, only 1-year tax returns. So how many people out there in the last year couldn't buy because of that, and now they can? Number 2, more new construction inventory. So We're seeing more new construction this year than we did last year. There's more houses on the ground. That impacts what there is to choose from. So especially if you're in an area that's new construction driven, then educate your clients on that. Number 3, there's less property in the MLS and more properties that are coming soon. So educate the people that are, maybe they don't see the value in reaching out to a realtor or talking with you. Maybe you put them on a search a year ago they were looking to buy or to sell. Well, now let them know a lot of your transactions are not in the MLS. Me personally, about 30% of my transactions that I do are still, even though I'm not even actively selling or listing right now, still are not in the MLS. I have a buyer. I picked up a friend over the weekend looking for about $1.5 million, and I did some research over the weekend. Almost all of the inventory I'm showing them is not in the MLS. So do you know your market? Are you focusing on your geographic markets? That way you can provide that same value of that additional inventory. Are you educating your buyers, your prospective buyers, and letting them know what you're doing to find that additional inventory? And they see that you're working, that you're being proactive, you're talking to other top listing agents, you're talking to builders, you're looking at FSBOs and coming soon properties, you're in Facebook and the realtor groups to where you see the Facebook posts of properties that are coming soon that other realtors are putting in there, then that is valuable information that you need to be communicating to your buyers, what you're doing to find the inventory. So another thing, increasing rents. Rents in DFW have increased 5% in the last year. So reminding your buyers of those increasing rents to where mortgage rates are moving up. They usually do move up in the spring. So now's the time to lock in a 30-year mortgage. Also, home prices move up in the spring. We see 4 to 7% price increases. So people that may say, well, my lease is not up till September. Well, I'm not really thinking of moving until August. Well, why don't they move now? Because just that waiting the extra 3 or 4 months could cost an extra 5 to 7% in the cost of that home, not to mention the increased interest rate in 3 to 4 months down the road if they're thinking about towards the end of the summer. So have those conversations now. Okay, so number 2, as far as minimum expectations, behaviors you have to meet your income goal. Monthly touch to your sphere of influence. Quarterly engagement, now that's phone, text, or face-to-face. Nothing's more powerful than face-to-face. 70% of communication is face-to-face, but phone and text are 2 other ways to create engagements. There's a lot of ways you can create engagements, but those are the most basic. So market update relative to their home. So when you're on the phone or when you're on a face-to-face conversation, what they're going to respond to, the value proposition from you to them is going to vary based on each consumer. And I guarantee where they'll see the most value if it's relative to their home. And the more specific you are, the more value that you'll have in your conversation. So if you know what their neighbor's home just sold for or just listed for when you call them, then that's a great value add. I would probably, certain people, especially your leads in the last 12 months, anytime there's a new listing or a market change in their neighborhood, a new listing that comes on or just went under contract, that's an excuse for you to contact them and just let them know, hey, I was just thinking about you. I saw this property listed around the corner. Wow, they're really pushing the market on the price. That's good for your house. And just a quick email, quick phone call with a dialogue like that. Personal engagement relative to their personal situation. So when you're making your face-to-face, your phone calls to your sphere of influence, number 1 is as far as its business, what's changed in the market value of their home. And then number 2, because we know this is a relationship-based business, what is going on in their life? So what's top of mind with them? Jimmy just broke his leg at a soccer game last weekend. They're not really thinking about moving this week. So what is top of mind for them? And that varies with all of the your leads or your sphere of influence. So get into their mind to find out what's important, what's going on. Maybe they're expecting a job promotion and they're excited about that. But think about the things that, Dale Carnegie, the 4 factors, family, occupation, recreation, and dreams that are going to generally be top of mind for your sphere of influence. Number 3, semi-weekly open house in GeoFarm. Good morning, Nana. Thank you for joining. So semi-weekly open house in GeoFarm. And we're seeing great results from that. So keep up the good work on hosting those open houses in your GeoFarm. That reinforces your credibility in the area. It reinforces your personal brand when they see your signs out there in the neighborhood, because those directional signs on the weekends, that's like free postcards in the mailbox of all of your GeoFarm. So those open houses create several indirect benefits in addition to just picking up buyers and sellers when you're at that open house. In fact, I would say 60 to 70% of the benefit of an open house in your GeoFarm comes from reinforcing your brand in that area. Direct mail postcards is one way to do this. Oh, I'm sorry. So number 4, I have a buyer marketing in your GeoFarm. Keep in mind, you need to do this consistently monthly with 2,000 pieces a month, whether that is a flyer, whether it's a postcard, but somehow get that message out. I have a buyer, and what your buyers are looking for at least once a month. This is the time of the year to be really loading it up. So there's several ways to do that. Of course, the most expensive but creates the biggest impression is door knocking, because that's your time that you're spending on that. Direct mail postcards would be the second most expensive way to do that. The other way is flyers distributed door to door. That's probably one of the cheaper ways to do that. Facebook promoted posts, another very cheap way to promote your message. AdWorks campaigns. AdWorks is a campaign that you can buy per zip code. Put in the I have a buyer postcard template into that AdWorks campaign. That's another way to be in front of homeowners that are in that zip code or area. But keep in mind, 2,000 homeowners a month as a minimum need to have those messages. They need to see that consistency with your messaging, and they need to see that those buyers are finding properties, and that that adds the credibility. FSBO, number 5, FSBO and expired full market knowledge in your GeoFarm. So have you gone back to all the old expireds, and have you previewed all of the FSBOs? That is a minimum that you need to be doing in your GeoFarm. 1 listing appointment every other week. Now that's a minimum, keep in mind, but the goal should be a listing appointment a week. And if you're doing all of these activities, you should be going on at least multiple listing previews a week. And if you go on enough listing previews a week on for sale by owners, and if you're following up, because we know 90% of your business comes from lead follow-up, then I guarantee you'll be going on a listing appointment a week. And then following up with your open house, and I have a buyer marketing, and your personal referrals, and your sphere of influence. So follow up, follow up, follow up. This is the time of year follow-up is the most crucial. 90% of sales will come from lead follow-up. So ask yourself, how much money am I leaving on the table? And how many times have I talked to someone that has made a decision without me? So I want to challenge you guys this week to go through all of your leads in the last 12 months and contact them this week. I would love for you to email me your commitment that you're going to do that this week. That's a commitment that you owe to yourself, and there will be business that comes from that. So make that your number one, in addition to doing these other things, but touching every person, contacting. This is a conversation. This is a face-to-face. This is not just sending them an email, but this is having a conversation with those leads in the last 12 months, every one of them. Okay, so let's move on to our KDNA. Our KDNA numbers for the week, it looks like Kathy was in the blue this week. So Kathy exceeded her expectation. Kathy's here today. So Kathy, tell us a little bit about how you got these huge numbers in the last week. So you had 295 flyers that went out. What was the messaging on those flyers or postcards?
In 3 different zip codes that I did anything from 4 units to 100 units.
And the messaging on those was?
I have a buyer in this,
Okay.
that's looking for multifamily.
So she had very specific messaging to a very specific.
Sold so many in this area, and I'm very familiar. Please call me and discuss the possibility of selling, and I will be contacting you also.
Okay, great.
I'll call from us, and because we've got a lot of these guys' phone numbers.
Okay, great. And then your contacts, 304 voice-to-voice contacts last week. How were those generated?
We collected from all the events that I did last week, which was 5 events that I held. 304 were people I never knew before.
So 304 people through hosting events that Kathy hosted last week. That's Saturday. You had how many people attend the event you hosted Saturday?
107.
107 people just for one event on Saturday. So it's great. And I encourage you guys to go to those because it's educational. It's
It was great.
Yeah, great training. So
I got lots of accolades on it. Large money nuggets on how to find money for different things and how to prepare yourself and prepare your clients for money. And it's like a 21-page, I think it is, or 18-page, full of notes and scripts and everything else that you do, you talk to.
So ask about the March Money Madness. Sounds good. All right, Angela. Angela, fantastic job at 104% of her goal. Angela had a fantastic win over the weekend. She had an open house on one of her listings. I said, where did you get the listing? She said it was from Wells Fargo loan officer that was in her GeoFarm. So this comes from the loan officer prospecting program. And that loan officer referred her a buyer. And so Angela listed their home. Obviously, I assume it was a move-up buyer. So she listed their home. She had it open. She did our open house training, completed the Facebook promoted posts, and along with the other things, had over 70 people attend that open house. Guys, I think that's a record. I don't think I've ever seen 70 people, attend an open house. That was great. So that was just from, simply following our training. So great job. Kudos to Angela. She received 2 offers from the open house. So I assume that property will probably be under contract this week. So kudos to you, Angela. Great job on your work there. So that helps Angela's numbers because not only did she have an open house, she also had more contacts last week because so many people that attended that open house. She had 88 people that she spoke to voice, 500 flyers, postcards that she sent out, and she also managed to close a transaction in the meantime. So Angela has not only been building her pipeline, but she's been maintaining her pipeline, and she has very consistent business in her pipeline now that she's closing. She's been doing just a fantastic job. Tammy, great job. 526 flyers or postcards that she put out last week, 37 people that she spoke to, and Tammy also listed a transaction and closed a transaction. So great job, Tammy. Wes had 8 new prospects last week, and he also was busy on opening sales. So 2 sales that he opened and also closed a transaction. Wes, on those 2 that you put in escrow, where did those come from? Great. Okay, so tell me about the prospecting on the foreclosure. How did that work?
Like homesearch.com, auctions.
Good. Okay, so that was a buyer transaction and
2 buyer transactions.
okay, great.
Real buyer was
Okay, investor buyer, and the other one was from Realtor.com, an online lead. And the online lead, how long have you been working with them before they set an appointment, before you got the contract?
This is our first contract that we actually we wasn't at the offer,
Right.
or wasn't a contingency, so we're actually on the contract. Probably about 2 months now.
2 months. Okay, so that's pretty quick. Online lead, have them under contract within 2 months. So good job. Any other wins last week, Wes, that you want to mention?
Just keep on it. Everything's close.
Yeah.
So 7 closings this month, just managing that.
Good. All right. 7 closings this month for Wes. That is from following his GeoFarm and from doing his just working. So good job. Kudos on working, Wes. All right. Corey. Corey had 21 contacts last week. Corey's also been consistent with his prospecting as well, his sphere of influence. Corey does a great job with his sphere of influence. and it had 7 buyer appointments last week, and also had two buyer appointments that were attended, and then also 2 buyer rep agreements. He also had a closing as well. Rupal has been doing great geofarming her area, and she also spent 5 hours on training last week, and she had a buyer agreement as well. So Rupal, with the hours that she's been working, that's going to lead to productivity as well. And then Sarah she's been doing, her and Jill, well, let's see, Sarah had 1,200 postcards that went out last week, and she also opened a transaction. And Sarah and Jill have been, I think it's Jill that has been sending the note cards to the for sale by owners. So she has not been, she's not as aggressive on the phone with them, and being I hate to use that word aggressive with the for sale by owner. That's the last thing that you want to, the last perception that you want to give to a for sale by owner, because they feel like they're hounded from so many different agents. So that personal note card has been very effective for her, and that's because she's kind of paying it forward. She's showing that she cares, that she's spending time on it, and she's not wasting their time trying to ask for business on the phone. So she's earning the business, and she's also doing a great job with her valuations. And when you're previewing these for sale by owners, it really helps your valuation skills. And that's something that's such an important part of real estate, is your valuation skills and knowing the inventory. And the for sale by owners is a great way to practice on that. So kudos to Jill and Sarah for doing that. And then also Nana put in a property under contract last week. Also had 8 contacts and buyer appointment, and also had 6 hours that she spent on contacting. Rose and Jesse, very consistent, 59 contacts last week. Rose and Jesse, good job with you all. And Venus, tell me a little bit about your progress last week. Some of the things that you maybe that worked for you, or maybe some challenges that didn't work for you. Okay. Good. So that's another, what Venus said is that she's finding out, and this is, when you talk to these for sale by owners, it's a learning process. And that's how you sharpen your skills, just by doing it, just by practicing and getting out there. She's finding out a lot of them are listing with these flat fee services. So of course you learn more about your competition, how to differentiate your competition. So she's putting together information on how she compares to the flat fee services, illustrating your value proposition, the things that you do different, whether it's professional photography, all the other things that you do, your results, compared your results or your brokerage's results to their brokerage. And a lot of those flat fee listings do not sell with those services. So what's the probability of you selling one versus Mission Real Estate or Central Realty or these others? When you know that, and you can speak to that with knowledge to these for sale by owners, it's very, very powerful. So keep that in mind. Good job, Venus. Ronnie has been, I want to thank Ronnie for attending today too. She's a new agent, so she's come to learn a lot from this. This is great. All right, so I will close with that. Just a couple announcements. Tomorrow we have our sales meeting. Be sure to attend. I'll be giving a training on our new buyer book. We're rolling out a new buyer book we've been working on for several weeks. So Jeremy will have that ready to distribute that template at the end of the meeting. And it has a lot of enhancements. We'll go through those enhancements, and we'll also go through a sample buyer counseling session. So Venus has volunteered to be our consumer tomorrow and the sample buyer, and I will conduct the buyer counseling session. So I want to thank Venus for doing that, and look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow at 11:15. Oh, one more thing Richard wanted to mention, I forgot, is that reminder of our first quarter contest and your KDNA number 4. Be sure to put what your call to action is in the notes when you enter your KDNA numbers each week. So whether it's I have a buyer postcard, whether it's letters you sent to a for sale by owner, whether it's just a note card, but make sure you put that call to action in your notes for KDNA metric number 4. All right. You guys have a fantastic, productive week, and I'll see you tomorrow.